Today is May 6th, 2021. Have you ever had a tough time or been through something tough? And if you have, how did you get through it? How did you make it through that tough time? I'm not going to say it wasn't hard because it was a tough time, so it must have been hard. It must have been difficult. It must have been challenging. I remember a very tough time that I went through in college, 2009 to be specific. And none of my teammates knew. My trainers didn't know. My coaches didn't know. So, in order to enter camp at Michigan State, we had a fitness conditioning test. We had to run 20 half gassers timed. And if you don't know what a half gasser is, that might be a good thing because they are deadly. So you have to run the width of the field, not the length, the width. You have to run down. You have to touch the line and turn around and run back. That's one. So we have to run 20 of those timed. And if you miss one of them, if you miss one, you have to come back the next morning and do it all over again. So in order to even put your helmet on, put your pads on, practice, you have to pass the conditioning test. And for some odd reason, my senior year, 2009, at Michigan State University, I struggled to pass the test the first time, which had never happened to me before. And during the summer, we condition. Coach Manny, he conditions us. He gets us in shape. He whips us in shape. But one difference between me and the other players, I live with type 1 diabetes. And to run at 4:30 in the morning, 20 half gassers, blood sugars maybe off the chain. And if you don't know what off the chain means, that means skyrocketing or low or just not in a good range. And then you throw a little bit of adrenaline in there. You know, that can be a game changer. So I remember getting to maybe about 12, because 12 was the point where we switched the time, and I think they add a second on for us to actually finish. So I think the pigs, we call them, the D line and the O line, I want to say they had like maybe 19 seconds to run across the field and then run back. And then I think for big skill, which would be tight ends, fullbacks, linebackers, quarterbacks, I think we had 15 or 16 seconds to go down and back. And then the skill, which would be wide receivers, safeties, running backs, cornerbacks. Am I leaving anybody else? Running backs, receivers, cornerbacks, safeties. Those guys, I think they have either 14 or 15 seconds to make it down and back. So at 12, it increases. So if it was 14 for a skill, then they had 15 seconds at 12. Once they completed 12, then the 13th one would have been 15. They have a whole extra second, 15 seconds. I remember getting to like 12 and I was struggling. like it was super tough. I don't know why. I crushed it for the most part during summer conditioning, but I just it's like my body was just not wanting to cooperate, not wanting to keep up. And I remember I think I got to 14, like 14, I think I missed one. 15, I missed one. I got 16, 17, missed like 18, missed like 19, and then like I made 20. And I was pissed. I was pissed because it was super tough and I was pushing myself. And like I said, I live with type 1 diabetes, so nobody probably knew exactly how I felt, what I was going through. But, I never used that as an excuse to not compete, to not give my best, not give my all. And sometimes even when I was giving my all, people wouldn't even know, that I felt terrible because I never showed it. I never displayed it. But running those half gassers, I just felt terrible because I felt like I let my team down and I let myself down because I should have been able to do them. But when I look at it, I was affected by something that I had no control over. But the feeling of like letting your team down, that's probably the worst feeling in the world. And it was super tough. It was super tough. One thing I kept thinking about was like, man, I have to come back tomorrow and run 20 half gassers all over again. I was like, wow, I got to do this all over again. And I already felt bad after running it. And I didn't make it. And then I had to come back the next day and run 20 again. So I believe my coach at the time, my position coach, Mike Tressel, he kind of advocated for me like, look, Denson missed what he missed. I think I missed 4 of them altogether. He missed what he missed, but like he didn't miss it and then stop running. He still made some after he missed some. And I think that just showed you like I was still pushing to make it, even though I knew I had to run them all over the next day. And I know some people probably on my team, they would have been like, man, I missed one. I'm not gonna keep running. I'm not gonna give it my all. But it was very tough to kind of like muster it up. Even though I had missed a few of them, I still wanted to, leave it all out there, no matter what. And I did. I did my best. I did everything that I could to try to make sure I could make whatever else I could make. I tried my best. But it was super tough. I felt, like I said, I felt like I let myself down. But most importantly, I felt like I let my team down because I didn't finish it. I was a senior, and it was just like, I should be able to make all 20 of them with no problem. But like I said, I have type 1 diabetes, and sometimes things are out of your control and things are a lot tougher than people would know. But you know what you're capable of doing, and what you can do and what you can push through. And that's why I just continue to push through. I'm glad that I had a coach that understood me. His name was Mark Staten. He was our tight ends coach at the time. And that day, I remember the rest of that day, my blood sugars were just super, super high. And I remember being in, I think it was at the end of the day, after our team meeting, my blood sugar was like 453. And I'm just like, man, like this is insane. Like went through all day, went through practice, went through meetings, and just like everything was just off. I was just off. And I remember offense had left. After our team meeting, offense left, defense left, and I was just chilling. And I think me and Coach Staten were talking. And I don't know if he knew a lot about diabetes or, if he had family members or whatever, that may have had diabetes. But for some reason, I feel like he knew. He was talking to me like, like, you're good, Dents. Like, you're good. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna come back tomorrow. You're gonna knock it out. In my mind, I was already prepared that I needed to run. I was gonna have to run 20 tomorrow. I was just trying to mentally and physically prepare myself, because I knew what I had to do. Like, that was important, that I needed to make those 20 timed half gassers. Everybody else had to do it, so I didn't think it would be any different for me. And I remember just kicking it with Coach Staten, and I started crying because, man, I was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the heck happened. Like, I don't know what I did wrong. And, super tough to accept that I didn't make all of my half gassers, like during the summer when we practiced. This is important. This is the exam to get into camp. This is the exam to, you know, officially start our season, get things going. And he just told me, like, like, I was good. Like, don't worry about it. You're good. You're going to come back tomorrow in the morning. You're going to crush it. And I remember coming in the next morning super prepared to just, like, crush these 20 half gassers. And my position coach, Mike Trust, was like, you only got to run 6. And I was like, what? In my head, I'm like, oh, I'm about to knock this out the park. Because mentally, I was prepared to do the whole 20. But I'm not going to drag this out any longer. But when you're faced with tough things, there's no way around. There's no way around them. You have to face them. No matter what it is, when you hit these tough things or these obstacles in the road, you have to just take full advantage of it. Hold yourself accountable to get through it. However you got to do it, muster through it. But when the tough stuff arises, understand you can go around it, you can go through it, you can go over it. But however you deal with it, your tough times, your tough situations, understand that better things will come through those situations. And those tough times make you even tougher because they show you how much grit you have to overcome things. Say that again. No matter what you go through in the tough things, it just shows you how much grit that you have to overcome things. And sometimes when we're faced with adversity and tough situations, it doesn't look like we can get through them. But you have to set the mindset that this is just some adversity that you're facing, and you figure out how to get through it any way that you can. So, with that being said, I want to wish you, as always, nothing but peace, love, and happiness.